Hello there, fellow humans, and welcome to this video. And today we'll talk about the AMX M4 54 and, to a degree, unfortunately, also the lockboxes. Now, obviously, lockboxes are bad. I don't need to tell you that, and if I do, then I hope you know now. Now, these lockboxes include the MX, the 30 prototype, and the 1357, and the new CDA, which is irrelevant, basically, because it is like the Canoniac Panzer 105, no armor, 350 alpha damage, so as a tank destroyer, it is not very relevant, and obviously as a medium tank, it isn't either, because obviously, WoT Blitz, very small maps, tanks like this are going to drown quite heavily most of the time, so they're only really for those 0.5% of weird tank destroyer enthusiasts, not for the general player base of Blitz at all. Obviously, you can see 350 alpha damage, 8 degrees consumption, 10 degrees left, right, which is pretty horrible, no armor, and decent mobility. So, it is not a bad tank destroyer, but it's simply a paper tank destroyer, and those don't do very well in Blitz, especially when you also have the Scorpion G, the WZ-120, the Yak-Tiger even, when you have those kind of tanks that are simply better and also available for a lot cheaper. Now, then you have this thing, which, I don't know, some people like it, but generally it's a tier 7 light tank, and most of them just fall down to the same problem of either you get wrecked by smashes, you can't pen to rates, or a KV2 is gonna wreck you, or you can't pen a Black Prince, stuff like that, they're gonna out-trade you. So this isn't really a relevant tank by any means, especially with its penetration being quite weak, and also the average damage only being 90. So this is quite a bad tank in terms of tier 7 standards. Then what also is included is the MX-30 prototype, which is an absolutely lovely tank. Definitely recommend buying it if it's like in the shop for like 8-10k. So this is a great tank. However, the biggest problem obviously with the lockboxes is that it gets certificates not for the same tank, which basically means that you might end up with 20 lockboxes, you got 20 different certificates, you still don't have a tank. So please don't buy them. The lockboxes rely on a very bad system. Please don't fall for that. It's basically, they give you the first part for free, and then you're like, yeah, I just have to buy the key because I already have the box. It's a very sad system, and to be fair, I expect better of Wargaming, but then again, they're greedy scum, so here we are. So, speaking of greedy scum, I am, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Nah. But anyway, now, the MX, which is the main feature of this video, and also the most important part here. What did I have? Yeah, the more heavier tank is, the more refined gun makes sense, basically. But yeah, the rest of the equipment is just like whatever. Then the problem with this tank is that first of all, it got overhyped massively. You know, it was like, oh my god, it's broken, it's OP. It simply is not. It is good. That's all it is. However, it's a premium, and a good premium doesn't really cut it. I would also say that the VK90, the Super Conqueror, and also the Chieftain Mark 6 are better options than this vehicle. So, what do we have here? We have frontal armor and nothing else. Basically, turn your tank, these plates become more vulnerable as you turn, and obviously the same goes for the turret here. It is sort of turned backwards and like, bulges out. So basically, if you turn the turret away from the enemy, they can just simply shoot in this area here. So you have frontal armor, but no armor anywhere else besides being exactly frontal. So basically, if you're shooting at a tank here and there's someone here, they can just very easily penetrate you, which, for example, in a Super Conqueror would not be the case. Another thing about this tank is that the DPM is only 2,500, which is fairly standard for the heavy tier 10 heavy tanks, yes. But simply, for this kind of massive tank with not much side and rear armor, it just doesn't really cut it, even though it does have 480 alpha damage. And the mobility is... it is like T57 heavy mobility again, which is like basic heavy tank mobility. I'm going to go up the hill because everything else would be quite stupid. Are you listening, ST1? He is listening, that is very good. Okay, now let's get up here. And that is very important because the mediums, they tried to go down. Please don't do that. Come on, guys. High ground and field. High ground and map control, that's two things you need. Basically, you need map control. Map control, most of the time, you get it by getting a bigger part of the map. And most of the time, the bigger part of the map is the field. Because the problem with the city, in most cases of maps, except for example, Winter Malinovka, is that the city is like sort of on the side, isolated, and it isn't very effective. It's very effective in itself, but isn't very effective towards the rest of the map. So, also, most cities, it's just 90-degree angles, so for the tank like this, it wouldn't make any sense to go there, because you couldn't peek anything. And there you go. That's the problem of this tank already. The armor is not there, really. That was a pretty much HESH penetration through almost the front of the turret from a 183. And that can happen to you quite easily, and that is simply the armor profile in this vehicle. Okay, now, you're gonna have to obviously play quite carefully here, because, I mean, he can pen me. I also have two quite big cupolas on top, and he penned the cupolas again. So, that's the problem with this tank, you know? It is great frontally, but it is paper most of the time. So now let's get into the second battle here, and there is two 183s and a Jaeger on the enemy team, which is very bad for me, because obviously I have massive cupolas on top, and I don't really have any armor, which isn't very nice. And the reason why I let that last game in, and I'm going to show you that, is quite simple. First of all, don't rely on one game to give you accurate information on a tank, and second of all, this thing is made out of paper. French paper. So, that isn't very good. Nonetheless, it can perform very well. If you play it right, obviously. If you're a good player, you can get a lot of damage out of this thing, and that's the case for every tank, really. If you're a good player, you can play any tank well. The problem is that a majority of people aren't good players. They're either not interested, or they just play on the weekends, stuff like that. So if you're spending money on the game, first of all, don't spend it on lockboxes, because they're dumb. Like, I don't think I have to tell you that the lockboxes are dumb. If I do have to tell you that, then I just told you. But now we have a problem of they're camping and we're camping, and that's not very fun. And obviously I can't go anywhere because this thing is massive, which means it gets spotted easily, and he also gets shot easily. And because the side is completely unarmored, essentially, it also gets penetrated easily, which is a bit sad. You know, look at how massive the turret is when I'm turning it to the side to shoot someone. Even if someone's there, and I try to shoot there, I'm dead. So that isn't very good. And obviously, I'm gonna have to also watch out here, because if I peek over this, they can shoot me. Because it's massive. The 60 TP is a better tank, gotta say that. 60 TP is a massively better tank than this one. Even though the player doesn't seem to be better than me, but that's a different story, entirely. Okay. Obviously the main problem is how many are sitting over there. Because if they aren't, I can simply push forward here and just try to maybe spot them or put some pressure on them. There you go. Oh, yeah, he missed. Okay, great. Gonna have to wait here a bit, because I don't know how many... I mean, I definitely one of them sitting in that... Yep. One's sitting there. Okay. Yep. I mean, I told you. This game's too predictable, yo. It's easy. Game's too easy, man. Okay, now. The problem we have here is obviously we can't really do much. I would, if I were Wargaming, I would limit the amount of tank destroyers in a game to 2, especially in higher tiers. Because with 3 tank destroyers, you're just gonna camp the entire time. Because no one's like, especially with 183s and Jaegerus, no one's gonna want to make a move, because every move you make is gonna get severely punished. Let's try to take a shot at him. There we go, perfect. High roll. And now, I'm gonna have to watch out that the Jaeger can't shoot me over there. Yeah, it's just so massive, this tank. That's the problem. They invested a lot in height, but not a lot in armor. But obviously with the 480 alpha damage, you can out-trade quite a few heavies, which is very nice. No, he missed again. Very cool. That's basically the only savior you have against the 183 or stuff like that. Or your skill. Skill is your best armor. If you don't have armor, but you have skill, you have armor. Basically. And if you don't have skill, then armor is your armor. And you don't have much armor on this thing, so you need skill to cover for that. Now obviously, front plates, so if I peek, gotta watch out for these. And yeah, 3k damage, not too bad. You can see, it does work quite well. Obviously, if I only show you like 6k damage games, which, first of all, would take me about half an hour to get, and I can't be bothered. And second of all, it just shows a very unreal picture of a tank. You know, if you always see 6-7k damage games, you're always going to think the tank, oh my god, it's super OP. But instead, if I show you very good games like this one, then it shows a lot better pictures. So basically, sum up, lockboxes are bad, don't buy them. This tank is overhyped. It is decent, but no more than that. You know, somewhere between decent and good, I'd say. Depends on how good of a player you are. If you the worse you are, the worse the tank is going to be for you. So yeah, that is it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.